Another show clearly deriving inspiration from the all-time reality great Survivor. This one even takes its name from one of the popular sort of slogans from Survivor. Let's talk about Netflix's Outlast. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my TV review for the Netflix series Outlast. This actually was released a little while ago. You can check out all the episodes now, but it was announced recently that a second season is coming for this reality show. And like I mentioned, it is certainly a Survivor-esque type of show. We'll get into the specifics of the gameplay here in a moment, but it even takes its name from one of the original famous phrases from Survivor, which was, outwit, outplay, outlast. I think that was the order it was in. And so this show is called Outlast. So obviously, I think that's a knowing nod to its forefathers in the reality game. But before I launch into the specifics of this TV show and my thoughts on it, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We've got a ton of great movie and TV reviews for you to check out. Please consider subscribing down below. Would love to have you aboard in that capacity, or just like this video, share it on your socials, comment below. All that stuff does help out the channel. I am a Survivor fan from way back. Now, I have not watched in a long time, I will admit that. But when the craze happened way back when, now I guess 23 years ago, I want to say. But I was all in for the first, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 seasons of Survivor. I watched The Amazing Race as well for a while. But TV got so fragmented and there were so many things that I was missing out on that it became kind of tough for me to devote 16, 18 episodes, whatever it is, in one season to follow this group of people. So I just sort of got out of it. But every so often something will pop up, whether it's on network television or on a streamer, that does sort of catch my eye a little bit. And this one seemed interesting from the jump, and then I sort of forgot about it, and then I heard it was announced for a second season, and I thought, all right, you know what, I can binge this show now with Netflix. You can do that. So I was able to watch, and there was only 8 episodes, so I was like, all right, I can manage that. So I watched 8 episodes over the course of 2 days. And a lot of times when I do these TV reviews, I will sample like the first 2 or 3 episodes, get kind of a feel for what's going on, and then base my review off that. But sometimes, something will catch me, and I'll sort of find myself with enough time in that week or whatever to just binge the whole thing. And this show grabbed my attention. It's very interesting. So here's basically the premise of it. It takes place in the Alaskan wilderness, and I don't know if the second season will do that or not, but this first season anyway does just that. And they drop 16 players into the Alaskan wilderness. They split them into 4 teams, and the top prize is $1 million. But for any team to win that, they have to outlast the others. And so this is an interesting concept in the sense that there are no there's no rules. We'll sort of get into that part, but there's no timeline either. Basically, people will drop out either because they've had enough and they're going to self-eliminate, or they have medical issues. This happened to a couple of people on the show, and they get taken out, and sometimes they hope, oh, maybe I can come back. Doesn't usually ever kind of happen that way, but maybe sometimes. But so that's the other way that you can leave. You can't get voted out by other people. The only time that really happens is if the rest of your team is out and you're the last one standing. You can try to join another team, but if they won't have you, then you have to self-eliminate. You're out. So in that, it's something I have not seen before, I don't believe. But then there's this thing of no rules. So there's no host for this show. There's an announcer, which is actually one of my negatives about the show. I did not care for his voice. I don't know. He was doing this delivery like he was Rod Serling introducing the Twilight Zone. When he was describing everything, I don't know. It sort of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. I will say, I give the producers credit, of which Jason Bateman is a producer, that they did not use a famous voice. Like Jason Bateman could have, said, I want to be the voice of this or whatever. He has a lot of famous friends. But they did go with sort of a voiceover person or whatever to do that. So I'll give them credit for that. I don't particularly care for the person they chose. Didn't really like their delivery. And because there's no host, he shows up a lot. We hear his voice all throughout all of these episodes for exposition purposes. So as we go along here, the voiceover guy will remind us, what day we're in or whatever. We also have graphics on the screen that tell us, what day they're in, the current temperature, which usually is somewhere in the 30s or 20s, and they're out here long enough that winter ends up beginning and stuff. So it's very interesting in the respect that with no rules, what all happens? Is it like a purge of sorts? I suppose you probably can't, murder people, when they say no rules. But in terms of, sabotage and certain unscrupulous acts, yeah, it's kind of an anything goes type mentality, and that ends up, working out for some people and not so much for others. But sometimes it also backfires on the person, trying to do the scheming. So, like all these reality shows, personalities kind of emerge. But here's another interesting wrinkle for this particular one. These people are all sort of survivalists. So it's not just, on Survivor, I feel like you have unless, it's an all-star edition or whatever, and they bring back, fan favorites. It's just kind of regular people going to on this challenge, and okay, I'm going to sign up for this reality show. But here, these are people who are only given, meager supplies. On occasion there's like a little helicopter package drop or whatever, but these are people who, for all intents and purposes, know their way around, a campsite and a hiking trail and all of this stuff, and building a fire and a lean-to and all of this. So look, I don't watch a lot of survival shows. I really don't. So I found it pretty interesting how they were able to get certain things done, but also because they're kind of survivalists, a lot of that stuff is done on your own. So now they have to sort of merge with these groups and other people who are used to doing things on their own. It is a very interesting dynamic. And I will say, having just the 8 episodes, the pace is pretty brisk, because some of the episodes are only like maybe 35 or 40 minutes. The final episode is almost an hour, for the grand finale. But basically, once it gets down to just 2 teams, they have like a final challenge that they must do, and the first team to get there is declared the winner. So even though there's sort of no timeline, the timeline is once there's 2 teams, then the final challenge begins or whatever. But I thought this was a pretty interesting show. Like I said, it is coming back for season 2. I don't know if it's going to be in Alaska as well. But I think it might make sense to be. I think there were a lot of elements there that were interesting, and I'm sure that we have not seen all that Alaska has to offer. I will say one other thing I didn't particularly care for, that I don't think should have been allowed, but it was, when some sabotage happens, the one team actually goes to the producers to watch the playback on the videotape to see which team and which people did the sabotage. I thought that was really like a cheat. I get that there's sort of no rules, but like, it should be a rule that you can't go to the producer and say, hey, what happened to my stuff? Let me watch. You should have to figure that out yourself if you're a survivalist. So I have to take off a little bit of a point for that. Did not care for that little plot device. But overall, like I said, this is a pretty good show in the, reality contest survival type show genre. I think it's pretty good. So I'm going to leave Outlast on Netflix with a B. I can even go B+, maybe, if it wasn't for that thing with the producer. That kind of bummed me out. And again, the narrator, I could kind of take or leave him. But in any event, we will look forward for season 2 at some point. And thank you for watching Dan Reviews It. We'll see you next time. Bye.